Tom, can you hear me?
This is Stephanie. I can hear you.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
I can
Yes, I
hear
can,
you,
Tom.
Tom.
Good, thanks, Stephanie. I was on a call yesterday and no one could hear me and I couldn't hear them. So I don't know what was going on. So I
Oh,
wanted to
no.
get on early and thank you.
You're welcome. I don't see your camera though. It's just a black screen, so I'm not sure if you turn your video
You
on.
don't see my picture? Well, that's not good. Hang
I
on.
know. Well, at least you got the voice, right?
Why would that be? It shows my lights on.
Yeah. Oh, maybe try, are you on
Oh,
your
it says
laptop?
something. Virtual background is still loading. Use video. Let me
Okay.
see. I'm dressed up. I got a suit, sport coat, everything. I need to play the part. I'm out. Well, this is weird. All right, I'm gonna go get one of my friends and see if we can figure out
Hey,
why my
Tom,
computer. Yeah.
uh, sometimes a person will accidentally hit the slider button at the top of their laptop. Is that what you did?
No, I looked at that. That light's on. It tells
Okay,
me it should be
all right.
okay. So it sounds like something else. Let me go check my. I'll check with my technical guy, Patrick. I'll be right back. If I
Good morning. Just confirming you all can hear me. I'm not.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thanks.
Good morning. Richard Jerryberry checking his audio as well.
Morning, Richard. I can hear you as well.
Thank you.
Hey, I can see your video. Oh, but I can't hear you now.
Hey, this is Tom Dixon. Can you see me and hear me now?
I can see and hear you now, yes.
You can see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I had to reboot to get that to work, and you obviously can hear me. So
I can, yes.
off to a
you're all
flying
good.
start. We just moved to our new offices, or our old offices, but new floor yesterday after the building was damaged. And so we're having some glitches in terms of our networking here. They had to all be redone. And Corey, I got your email if you're still on.
Once you throw it on mute and I'll redo your monitors.
Ms. Federico, are you running the hearing today?
It's Stephanie today.
Oh, hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
When I turn my camera on, the image doesn't show up.
That's similar to what Mr. Dixon was having a problem with. On your laptop, is the slide at the top where is that moved over so your camera, so the lens is actually turned off? Otherwise, you may have to sign out and sign back in again. It might work.
It might be easier just to restart.
I'll wait.
Steve, I had a similar problem and had to reboot to get my picture back up.
Okay, well, I'll wait till after we enter appearances. Thank you.
Commissioner Gilman, I hope you had a good road trip back from Pueblo the other day. It was not great weather.
It was uneventful, luckily. Thanks.
Oh, good.
Good morning. We're now on the record. I'm Eric Blank, Commission Chair. It's now 9 a.m. on Tuesday, November 5th. Happy Election Day. I don't know. Can my colleagues introduce themselves for the record?
Good morning. I'm Commissioner Tom Plant.
Good morning, Commissioner Megan Gilman.
Thanks. This is a public comment hearing and proceeding number 24R-0410E, the rulemaking considering amendments to the Commission's electric rules to implement the provisions of Senate Bill 23-291. It requires establishing mechanisms to align investor-owned utilities' financial incentives with the financial interests of its customers on incurred fuel costs. This hearing is being webcast and will always be live. A court reporter is transcribing oral comments for the record in real time. The Commission opened this rulemaking in September by decision number C24-0702. Attached to that NOPR are our proposed amendments to the existing Commission rules governing the fuel cost recovery mechanism known as the Electric Commodity Adjustment for Public Service and the Energy Cost Adjustment for Black Hills. The NOPR explains the Commission's proposal for a symmetric sharing mechanism as contemplated by statute and is modeled after the proposed rules in the Commission's ongoing gas PIM rulemaking. The proposed mechanism would compare benchmark gas rates for each quarter with the same quarter in the previous year. Outside of a deadband of 20 cents per decatherm to account for some of the natural fluctuations in the price of natural gas, the difference in benchmarks is then used to calculate the GPIM sharing amount every quarter. The sharing amount as proposed is 5% of the difference between benchmarks multiplied by the total gas quantity for the then completed calendar quarter. The proposed rules cap the sharing amount at an amount equal to 40 basis point pre-tax return on the utilities rate base and provide that the quarterly sharing amount will be recovered through each utility's ECA deferred account balance. The proposed rules also make accompanying modification to the prudence review process and require reporting needed for the calculation of the new eGPIM benchmarks. Initial written comments on the proposed rules have been filed by Black Hills, Colorado Electric, the Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate, and the Public Service Company of Colorado. All three file comments responding, or all three file comments are responding or replying to initial comments. Today we'll hold live comments, including responsive comments to these pre-filed written comments already submitted. We have read through the written comments, and those comments do not need to be presented again orally this afternoon. Additional written comments are also welcome and can be submitted through our e-filing system, through our website, or by sending them to Dora_PUC_website at state.co.us. If using these methods, please specify the comments apply to proceeding number 24R-0410E. As always, written comments are recorded the same way as oral ones. Before we jump into it, are there any preliminary comments or matters from the participants?
Mr. Chairman, this is Steve Denman. I have logged in and out and I still can't get the camera to work. My apologies. If you are entertaining opening statements, with me today is Mr. Jason Piquet, who is prepared to make some opening remarks.
Before we do, let me just see if there's anybody from the public. As I understand it, the utilities and UCA would like to make would like to make comments. Is there anyone else from the public or anyone else who would like to make comments today? Ms. Roach?
Yeah, I have some prepared comments on behalf of CEC that I was also planning to present today.
All right, well, maybe we'll go with the utilities UCA and then CEC. Would that work?
That's fine. Thank you, Commissioner.
Anybody else? Well, and I guess I'll just see Commissioner Plant, any preliminary comments you'd like to make before we jump into it?
Nope, no preliminary comments.
Commissioner Gilman?
Likewise, nothing for me.
All right, Mr. Denman, Mr. Piquet.
I'll introduce Mr. Piquet. And we also have several other subject matter experts here who are prepared to answer questions if you have specific questions in their subject matter areas that arise from our written comments. So, Mr. Piquet, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners, and happy election day right back at you. I'm Jason Piquet. I'm the Director of Regulatory Administration here for Xcel Energy in Colorado. And just have some brief opening comments here to summarize a few of the pieces in our initial comments. And of course, we appreciate your time here this morning, focusing on how to best construct an incentive mechanism for fuel costs in the ECA. What has guided the company in all of our comments, both in this rulemaking as well as in the parallel rulemaking on gas commodity costs in the GCA, are the statutory directives. And we see those two main directives being, and I'm quoting here, to align the financial incentives of an investor-owned electric or gas utility with the interests of the utility's customers regarding incurred fuel costs. And secondly, to protect customers to improve the utility's management of fuel costs. And some of the company's comments in this rulemaking, likely to be reiterated and expanded upon today in our discussion, may sound familiar to those we made in the GCA rulemaking. And we're not trying to repeat ourselves, but rather we firmly believe that the overall structure of any PIM needs to not be backward-looking, nor necessarily forward-looking, and that the specific parameters of any mechanism need to appropriately balance the risks and costs on customers and utilities. Given the timing of this NOPR being released before the recommended decision from Chair Blank came out in the GPIM rulemaking, and that's proceeding number 24R-0110E, we're presuming that the starting point for our discussion today is not necessarily the opening NOPR in this proceeding, but rather the recommended decision I just referenced. That decision adopted a few recommendations from the company and other utilities on how to modify some of the specific parameters of the GPIM, including risk-sharing amounts, caps, deadbands, but did not include some other of our recommendations. While the GPIM rulemaking is not at issue here today, and a decision from the full commission is still pending, we simply point out the parallel path that these rulemakings are on and some of the interconnected items between them. So in short, the company's comments in this NOPR proceeding highlighted a few central concerns that we have, and I'll highlight three of those. The first are concerns around several of the key parameters of the EGPIM structure, most importantly, the baseline and cap, but also the risk-sharing percentage, the deadband, and particularly the calculation of that deadband. You know, the company proposes that incentives only apply to costs outside of that deadband. The second is concerns around the very large amount of financial risks this exposes the company to. And thirdly, we have concerns around the electric production cost efficiency rules, which we believe should not be adopted at this time. Instead, the company recommends the use of a current index approach to setting a baseline for gas purchases, setting a more reasonable cap and level of overall risk, not expanding the EG-PIM beyond gas commodity costs, setting a 1-year test period, and leaving any production cost efficiency rules for a fully litigated proceeding, such as a rate case or ERP, where they can be specifically tailored to the conditions that each utility find themselves in. In those settings, the company and other stakeholders in the commission can take time to evaluate the goals and intent of addressing any concerns that the commission has. The company has not yet submitted blue line edits to the NOPR's proposed red lines in this rulemaking, but we are happy to do so if it would be helpful for the commission. So we've got a couple experts here with us today in the room. We have Steve Berman from Regulatory, Mike Bogner from Commercial Operations, John Landrum from Resource Planning, and Richard Derryberry from Gas Supply and Planning. And we can all help address any questions you have about our written comments. And otherwise, we thank you for scheduling this hearing and look forward to our discussion here.
Thank you, Mr. Piquet. Commissioner Plants, any questions for the company?
No, I have no questions.
Commissioner Goman.
I also have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Piquet. Greatly appreciated. Anything else from public service?
Not at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sopkin, Black Hills.
Good morning, Your Honor. Yes, Greg Sopkin representing Black Hills. I hope you're all doing well today. We filed response comments to public services comments, and through that, I guess we adjusted our position a little bit. And we're largely in agreement with what public service proposes. That includes adjusting any historical benchmark gas rate for inflation based on the consumer price index for urban consumers, modifying the risk sharing ratio between the utility and customers instead of 5% to 2 or 3%, increasing the proposed deadband from 20 cents per decatherm to 50 cents per decatherm. The other thing we slightly disagreed with public service was on the reward penalty cap. I believe they indicated they would like to do that on a utility by utility basis through a specific, sounds like litigated proceeding. I think we would rather have a cap up front in the rules so we know what the potential exposure is up front. Right now, the exposure we have calculated to be about $1.6 million per year for our company based on the proposed rules. We would propose modifying the cap to 23 basis points of the equity portion of the utilities rate base. That roughly corresponds to $500,000 per year of risk for the company, which we believe is a much more accessible risk. Again, we don't like the whole idea of this thing, as you know, but much more reasonable risk for the company. We provided a chart in our response comments indicating how this would play out, backcasting for 5 years under the proposed rules and under what we propose the modifications to be. So we do have with us today people from Regulatory, Nathan Larkin, Jennifer Bass, and Nathan Berry. So if you folks have any questions, we will answer them as best as we can. I believe Mike Carrington is going to be joining us at some point. He's on a phone call having to do with a really large case coming to the commission soon. So
we got you coming and going. Commissioner Plant, any questions?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Goman.
No questions.
Me neither. Thanks, Mr. Sopkin. Mr. Dixon for UCA.
Good morning to you all, as well as the other parties. This is Tom Dixon, appearing on behalf of the Utility Consumer Advocate, and also on this in this hearing is Corey Skluzak, our technical representative, although I should be making the comments initially unless there's some questions that are directed to him. And simply put, without restating our comments, which I will not do, the only modification to our comments that I want to make clear is we completely supported in our response to exceptions Chairman Blank's recommended decision in the GCA rulemaking docket 24R-0192G. And obviously the electric rules are based on that as Public Service has indicated. And there's no reason we see for you to differentiate between how electric utilities deal with fuel costs from how gas utilities deal with fuel costs. So our position is very simple. We support the recommended decision. We have made that statement publicly in our response to exceptions. We have supported the Commission's rules throughout this proceeding and the gas cost adjustment proceeding that I referenced. And I have nothing further to pass on to the Commission beyond that. And thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Plant.
I have no questions. Thanks.
Commissioner Gilman.
No questions.
Thank you. I don't either. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Ms. Roach.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Christine Roach. I'm here to offer brief comments on behalf of the Colorado Energy Consumers, also known as CEC. We appreciate the opportunity to offer comments to the Commission on its efforts to protect consumers from gas price volatility. First, I want to state that we share Public Services and Black Hill's concern about the accelerated timeline of this rulemaking. And while we appreciate the basis for the inquiry, we're concerned by the potential for unintended, unforeseen, or potentially difficult to foresee consequences from the structure contained within the NOPR. While we have not tested or verified Piesco's calculations, accepting them at face value injects some risk that had the proposed rules been in place for the last 7 years, it might have been costly to consumers. More time may be necessary to explore other options. For example, we may need to dig in deeper on the proposed use of a historical benchmark and the potential for that to create a swinging effect year to year from penalty to incentive based on the range of factors that drive last year's market and the resulting increase in price volatility. The mandate in CRS 43-120 is to design a mechanism to protect customers, and this risk may warrant further consideration in the realm of price volatility. Accordingly, CEC thinks there is some merit in Piesco's proposal that a trial year may provide benefit of hindsight before fully implementing a cost fuel PIM. Revisiting these rules after a pilot year may also allow stakeholders to propose and debate alternative or more preferable options. In this vein, CEC would suggest taking a look at the cost-sharing mechanisms in Wyoming for electric utilities specifically, including Rocky Mountain Power's Energy Cost Adjustment Mechanism, also known as the ECAM. In Wyoming, the utilities file an annual ECAM proceeding where it requests recovery of actual energy costs for the year above the net power costs, which are included in their base rates. The utility and customers share in the amount above the base rate cost. 80% of that cost goes to customers and 20% is covered by the utility. This approach may have some merit, we think, for Colorado utilities, especially because electric utilities have substantial control over the nature of their generation resources, including the construction of resources, the resource mix, dispatch, and operation. Unlike fuel expense, these components of generation affect customer costs, but are much more within the utility's control. Related to CEC's recommendation that a sharing mechanism may be more appropriate than a historical baseline fuel cost PIM, CEC would also encourage the Commission to remove the economic dispatch PIM into a second proceeding and reject Rule 3863. As written, the rule is imprecise and would create more confusion in an area which, as the Commission knows, is already a source of disagreement in Commission proceedings. While we strongly support utility accountability for uneconomic dispatch, such a term and the framework surrounding it need more robust and thoughtful development. We disagree with the utility's position that dispatch decisions should not be evaluated against the generation metrics used to support CPCN applications and energy resource planning applications, but we do believe the nuances of developing such a benchmarking system and the accountability requirements related to that require more deliberation, input from more stakeholders, and substantial revision from the form it currently takes in the NOPR. Reasonable minds may differ on what economic dispatch looks like, and without clear guidelines, it will only increase litigation before the commission. We appreciate the commission's consideration of these comments and the opportunity for continued participation in this and related proceedings. I welcome any questions you may have.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing any written comments from you. Did you submit written comments, and is the Wyoming Rocky Mountain Power approach on this record?
The approach, no, Commissioner. CEC was not able to submit written comments in this proceeding because of the accelerated nature of the timeline. But if it would be helpful to the commission, we're happy to elaborate on what that process in Wyoming looks like, to potentially inform a further round of consideration about how electric utility incentive mechanisms might differ substantially from what has been implemented for the gas utility side.
This is the first I heard about the Wyoming proposal, so I'd welcome a link, or even if it's just submitting your oral, your oral comments. So that'd be helpful. I think we're under some statutory deadlines here. So any questions, Commissioner Plant?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Gilman?
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. Is there anyone else who'd like to offer comments? Mr. Dixon?
I was waiting for anyone else. I do want to point out that in the UCA's initial comments, we did cite to the Wyoming process. And we gave a table of a number of state activity and gave some sites to it. So at least it's in the record to the extent it was identified in our comments as, and that particular ECAM, which is an ECAM, was mentioned in our comments as examples of what's going on in other states.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Davis, before we adjourn, do you have any questions for the parties from advisory side?
Thank you, commissioners. Can you see me?
We can.
Okay, great. I don't have any questions, and if the commission would like to set a deadline for any additional post-hearing written comments, I'd suggest that deadline be Friday, November 22nd.
Any concerns from the parties about that deadline? Would that be all right as a deadline with you, Commissioner Plant?
Sounds good to me.
Commissioner Gilman?
That works for me. Thanks.
So we'll have a end of day November 22nd deadline. Anything else, Mr. Davis?
No, nothing more from me. Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks. Would anything else on this from the parties? Mr.
Yes.
McKay?
Yes, thank you, Chair Blank. If I could just respond real briefly to some of the discussion earlier on the overall level of financial risk here. Black Hills and the company seem to differ a little bit on this, which is okay. I think there's a way through that. I know Mr. Sopkin was talking about Black Hills's proposed cap of 23 basis points on the equity share applied. Just from the company's perspective, public service specifically, that cap would still be very large for us. We calculate that would be somewhere in the range of $13 to $14 million. Of course, in our initial comments, we highlighted how we think the NOPR proposal's cap would be in the $42 million range. Again, much higher than that. Just highlighting that these are extremely large levels of swings that we could potentially see quarter to quarter and year over year. That would be very difficult to financially manage around. So just flagging that for the commission's awareness. I think the path through that is to not specify a specific level in the rules and let each utility deal with that in their subsequent EGPIM applications that would be required to come before the commission, which within 30 days, according to the red line rules. So just wanted to raise that to your attention.
Appreciate it. Mr. Sopkin.
Yeah, I just want to make clear, we do not mean to speak for public service, and I apologize, Mr. Pouquet, if it came off that way. Yeah, that was just our own calculation for our own purposes, our own company. We are happy to entertain a lower cap than that. So I'll leave my comments there.
Appreciate it. Anybody else comments before we adjourn? Well, just want to thank everybody for participating. Some statutory deadlines are trying to comply with. Any final comments, Commissioner Plant?
No final comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Goen?
Nothing for me, thanks.
With that, we're adjourned. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks.